There you go.
All right. Oh, here's another one. They're coming slowly. They're coming slowly. I turned. All right, guys. So welcome back. And for those who were with the class yesterday, and this is a smaller group than I was expecting. I'll have to do the attendance after, but at the end of the day, this is on you. It's your content. It's your class, and I want to introduce to you somebody that I worked with many years ago at Iona, now University, just like Manhattanville is now a university. Phil Weber, just a great guy, played basketball. I think you have his bio, so I'm not going to go through it. He can if he wants. Former basketball player at North Carolina State, former coach, and now a businessman. So Phil, welcome and thank you for taking the time.
Oh, no, thank you. And good to see all you, virtually. I'm excited about hopefully, learning something from you guys and trying to see if I can instill some of my wisdom that I have mostly gained through failure, by the way. So I don't know how you want to go ahead and start, Dave.
Well, why don't we start? Did you have something? Did you want to share? Do you want me to share the screen or do you want to just chat? Because it's either way, it's fine.
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay.
We're fine
Okay.
with this.
Okay, let me so why don't we start with this? I mean, and I'll tell you, I think I'll let you know a little bit about the class. Contemporary leadership. We did prop up John Wooden as one of our examples of somebody, coach, because a lot of these guys are in college athletics already. So I thought this would be a good natural step for them, hearing from you and your philosophy. So why don't we just start? Why don't you just give us your career back? Why don't you go walk us through that?
So thanks. And thanks for having me, by the way. So yeah, I've been playing basketball since I was 4 years old, and basketball has been very good to me. I mean, it's taken me all over the world, and I went and I got a scholarship to play at North Carolina State. Didn't play much, made a bunch of mistakes from preparation, and the list is long. But anyway, started my career at University of Florida, the Gators, at a very young age, and that went really well until some things that were out of my control. We had a tremendous success there, but some things happened. Our head coach had to resign, off the court stuff. And you learn that was my first. And you guys, if hopefully, you understand, if there's one thing that you get from this is simply that, those things that adversity, that comes at you is the greatest teacher. So I will share this. So literally, it was on Halloween. So I have this condo. I'm living in Gainesville, going to practice, and we hear that, Coach Sloan resigns, and the AD brings me in, and you guys are in college athletics. You want to be, it's your goal. AD brings me in and says, Phil, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to let you go too. So, quite honestly, I hadn't cried in a long time, and I thought I was going to be a tough guy. But when you talk to your mom, it was like, oh God, it was just so. Drive back to my place. And again, it's Halloween. The season just started. We won the SEC championship the year before. So we were pumped up for this year. Everybody was back. Let's go. And here I am now with this unexpected thing that happened to me. I go back, and there's 3 TV crews out there waiting for a comment regarding, what happened and all this kind of stuff. It was big news. It was the University of Florida. They're a big time program. And so I had 2 former players who lived with me, jokesters, right? So I walk in the door, they go, hey, what are you going to be for Halloween? A coach? Tough crowd. Tough crowd, right? So we go, and literally the next day, I remember vividly, one was going to more school, one was going to a job, and it was me. And I had nothing to do. I had nothing. I'm just sitting there, and what if there's anything that you get from whatever time we spend together is this: the power of your life will boil down to the power of the questions that you ask yourself. Because at that time, I asked myself an amazing question. I didn't know it at the time. I wanted to stay empowered, but I asked, how can I make this the best year of my life? So then all of a sudden what happens is you start thinking differently, right? So now this may be the only season as a coach that I'm not coaching my own team. And I had two beliefs. I wanted to become the best coach I could possibly be, and I wanted to have more friends in the industry than anybody else, because it's a journey. It was a passion. It was a journey. So I really valued relationships. So it started thinking, so I can go out. They paid me for the year. So I went and visited. I visited 16 different universities where buddies. I had a Northeast swing, I had a Midwest swing, I had a Southeast swing, and I had a West Coast swing. And, you guys have studied Coach Wooden. So I'll tell you my Coach Wooden story. So now Mark Godfrey, who had played at Alabama, I became friends with him. I was, 23 years old as a coach. He was 21 as a player. So we kind of got talking, whatever. He goes on, he starts coaching. Now he's coaching at UCLA as an assistant. I contact him, and, I asked him, hey, can I come watch practice? So I went to 4 practices, and, there was a game that Saturday. So he said, hey, Phil, I got you. I have a seat for you. So I'm walking in, and I'll tell you, I remember everything. It's like I'm walking into Pauley Pavilion. The place is rocking and they're going nuts. The band's playing, the cheerleaders are dancing. I'm walking across, they're warming up. And there he is. There he is. There's Coach Wooden, arguably the best coach to ever coach. And I'm like, Phil, you idiot. Just go, you're traveling the country to learn as much about the game as possible. It would be, go talk to him. So I waited online. There was 3 people waiting to talk to him. And it was kind of crazy, because once I got there, I said, Coach, my name's Phil Weber, and I worked with Norm Sloan, who actually beat him when they were coaching against each other for a national championship game. So I thought I needed that, but knowing Coach Wooden, there was, I didn't know that. He didn't need to know that. He didn't care about that. So, I said, I'm traveling the country to learn as much about the game. It would be the highlight of my trip if I could spend some time with you. And he said, Phil, call me on Monday. He hands me he writes down his number on a piece of paper. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So his nickname, right? His nickname was the Wizard of Westwood. Wizard of Westwood, right? He had this great reputation. So I call him Monday. Hey, Coach, remember me? This is Phil. He says, come on over at 1:00. So I'm like, great. He gives me directions, and all of a sudden it dawned on me. What am I going to ask him? So I went to this Burger King to write down, and I wrote down 12 questions. I hop in my rent-a-car, and, he lived in the valley in Encino in California, right outside of LA. And I know how dorky this is, but I swear my radio was on. I couldn't hear it. All I could hear in in my mind is, I'm off to see the Wizard of Westwood, So I'm like, this is crazy. So I get there, and literally, I tell you this because it was a life-changing experience for me. Because when I went in there, and, it wasn't so much the X and O's. It was just his wisdom and knowledge that really changed the way I saw many, many things. For instance, and it's because of him, I think I started writing poetry, because he went back, he was talking about adversity. And he said, when I look back, it seems to me all the grief that had to be left me when the pain was over, stronger than I was before. We lift weights, right? We lift weights. There's tension there, but yet we grow. And, so we can talk for hours about that one. But then it was the one that really, really hit me was when he talked about, when I asked him, as far as what's the best way to be a leader? What have you talked to me about leadership? He said, no written word or spoken plea can teach the youth what they ought to be, nor all the books on all the shelves. It's what the teachers are themselves. And you lead with who you are first and foremost. The people who you will eventually lead will be watching everything that you do. And as I left his, his condo, I Coach V, I played for NC State, and Coach Valvano, you see him every ESPN when you see the V Foundation. I had the honor of playing for him. And, he said that life boils down to very few moments. And I said that when I left, and I said, Coach, without question, this is one of those moments. And to further on a little bit about who he was. So I had his address, right? I want to thank him. I send him one of those Harry and David, things to thank him. It gets to his house. Right? I flew back to Gainesville on Tuesday. I left Monday. I flew back Tuesday. Thursday, I go to my mailbox, and there's a note from Coach Wooden. And it went, Dear Phil, no written word or spoken. Well, no, he goes, Dear Phil, although it is often used without real meaning, when used with sincerity, no collection of words can be more meaningful or expressive than a simple thanks, John Wooden. I think he wrote for Hallmark in his spare time. So he was just so amazing. Some of the things that when you think leadership points, okay, like it's a leadership class, so I want to hit on some of his main ones. And one of the ones that I think about often is, for instance, when you want to develop confidence in a group and you want to make good decisions, he says, be slow to make up your mind and be slow to change your mind once you make it up. Because, and I know from a coach now, if you're pulling players in and out of lineups, there's no rhyme, reason, or whatever. There's no way that they can get. Now, you're going to make mistakes, but it won't be by a lack of confidence for what they're doing. So to further on, I'll speed forward.
Let me just jump in there because Phil,
yeah,
it's really obviously great stuff, and obviously the Wooden stuff. But the thing that strikes me about what you're saying, and I believe we've also shared the Valvano speech with this group, is that when people sometimes when they think of basketball coaches, especially for people outside of the industry, they think they're just this is all they do, right? Is they yell at the kids, they that's all they know. But these guys Valvano were very cerebral people. I mean, Valvano was brilliant. Valvano was the same way. He would quote poetry. He would say, read a book. He would encourage the players to be very active in their education, as well as Wooden. I mean, Wooden took pride in the fact that these guys were going on, not maybe to the NBA, but going on in life, right? And making, and that's how I think it should all be. I think I shared, I'm not sure if it was this group. My dad played for Amos Alonzo Stagg, one of the great football coaches of all time. And somebody asked him before a season, what he thought about his team. And he said, ask me that question in 20 years.
Yeah.
So, and you get it right off the bat.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I'm glad you touched on that because I was going to mention it anyway. So, V always asked us two questions every year. Okay. He would ask us, if you were a corporation, would you buy stock in yourself? Or if you're in a room by yourself, do you enjoy the company? And what I say to you right now is, as I speak, you're thinking to yourself in 600 to 800 words a minute. Stop thinking. Can't do it. Sorry, you just can't do it. Now, of those thoughts, many are habitual. And what's the key, as Dave said, is that how do we, I have, and I don't say this to impress you, I say more so to impress upon you that I have consumed over 500 books on the science of personal achievement. And that, one author has led me to another author and has led me to another author. And take responsibility for your own growth because it always will pay dividends on just your worldliness and how you see the world. And it will help you empathize and see from other people's eyes as you gain that knowledge. And what I'd like to go in, and then I'll just speed forward. So I had adversity. I got to the honor to work with DT at Iona, for those times. And then it just wasn't happening for me. I'm telling you, I literally, and DT, you probably don't know this, is that, I wasn't offered to come back. So now all of a sudden I have a stack of rejection letters like up here, because I was always trying to move higher and higher and higher to other levels. And a buddy of mine, as fate would have it, we played on all-star teams that represented the United States, that went over, different countries, and it was great experiences. But, he had played at Kentucky, gone law school, got his degree, started an investment company, and it was just going great. And he had tried to hire me every year. And his name was Brett Barrett. I called him Bear. And he would call me up, hey, stop coaching, come work with me. I said, leave me alone, Bear, I'm coaching. Next year, same thing. I said, Bear, leave me alone, I'm coaching. Finally, I didn't have anything, right? I'm looking around, I'm trying to get it. Finally, I did it. So I pivoted, I left coaching. You're looking at a person who never thought he would do it at that time. And the irony of it is that the first thing we do is we sponsor a high school All-American team that goes over Europe like we did. And we, on that team, were 4 future highly paid NBA players. And one of them lived in LA, and I could live anywhere. And I had some friends in LA, so I chose to go to LA. And had I not gone to LA and see how life will weave you around, and you don't know what's going to happen, you just look for it and be open to it. I said to the one player, Baron Davis, who arguably made a couple, you can Google him, Baron Davis, he's made a couple $100 million and was an all-star multiple times in the NBA. But as a junior in high school, I said, Baron, let's get together, I can help you. He takes me, of all gyms, guess where? Back to UCLA in the old men's gym where Coach Wooden used to have practices for all those years. I walk up to, that was on a September day, these antiquated cement stairs up around, and I see something that I never thought existed. 30 NBA players playing at one time. They were all playing. Magic Johnson was over there. At that time, there was all these unbelievable names. I'm like checking, boom, boom, boom. There was like sensory overload. Fast forward 3 years, and I had worked with over 100 guys in the NBA, making them better. And the 4 major agents were utilizing me to get their players ready for the NBA draft workouts. And I didn't know what was going to happen, but Toby Bailey, who was a UCLA Bruin, who was drafted by Phoenix, played for Phoenix 1 year, kept telling me that the head coach of the Phoenix Suns wanted to watch me work him out. And I'm like, that's fine. Danny Ainge is head coach, and I'll tell you that I'm coaching some small team, European players, pro-European players at a low level, right? It's over at the Long Beach Pro League, and the janitor is still getting the gym ready. They're sweeping. There's nobody in the stands, no music or nothing. Well, Danny Ainge is coming in they're getting it ready for the next NBA game. Well, Danny Ainge I never met him. He's right there waiting for the NBA game. I go up after our game. We got to win. And then I go up and I say, hey, Danny, Phil Weber, I'm going to work Toby Bailey out tomorrow at 8 a.m. He goes, oh, Phil. And he was there. Okay. And I want to speed to the chase. And literally, I have 5 NBA guys in a workout. Danny Ainge shows up. And the players said I turned the volume up a little bit with intensity, just a little bit, right? And at the end of the workout, and again, there are going to be conversations that you guys have in your life with different opportunities that you have, that you'll remember everything. And I'm thinking, okay, now he's going to say, Phil, I want you to work with this on Toby, or I want his footwork to be better. He's the NBA coach, right? And he goes, what's your background? Man, thinking to myself, that's an odd question. And I tell him, former college coach, yada, yada. He then says, Phil, I've played all my life, 13 years in the NBA, 3 as a coach, and a perfect workout was only in my mind until today. And he's right there on this court in an old men's gym where Coach Wooden used to have those practices, says, what in compensation would it take to get you on my staff? So basically, I go from out of coaching to the bench of the Phoenix Suns. And it was literally preparation meets opportunity. You know, they talk about it in the book Outliers, right? 10,000 hours. I had put in well over 10,000 hours with those guys. And, you know, then I coached for Phoenix Suns, New York Knicks. I was offensive advisor for 2 championships with the Miami Heat. And I was a coach and in the front office for the New Orleans Pelicans. I wrote the book that I'm, you know, selfishly promoting in the back. And
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I am right now maybe embarking on my most amazing journey, and DT knows about it. It's I'm a partner of a tech company that literally has all the capabilities of a Microsoft, Google, or Amazon, and it's African American founded. And you're going to be hearing the name, the Bizio, very soon. If you can, we're up. You can go to THEBIZIO.com and you can see it. So I do want to read something, if you don't mind. And then I would love to have some questions and more direction to kind of what is in your mind going through, what opportunities you potentially have. But, you know, I don't necessarily, whenever I do my speaking, I don't necessarily read anything, but I took painstakingly time to condense this. And because of our topic of leadership, what I call this is, I call it the language of leadership. Okay, so here it is. Actions always speak louder than words. Who you are speaks so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. But when we do speak, we must maintain a few important components. First, we must always remember everyone is watching. Everyone is looking to see if you are someone they can trust. They are looking to see if you are a person of integrity, if your actions always follow your words. You are saying you can do something, and then you do it. And basically, you walk your talk. Secondly, less is always more. So you want to plan your talks, be concise, you know, always with undertones of service, empathy, but of a challenging nature. That challenging nature needs to be wrapped up and encapsulated so the person or group you're speaking with feels that you have a deep belief in them. Your role is to support and challenge. Thirdly, the words you choose are like a fingerprint. It tells the world the mindset to which you are coming from. Be aware of your language. Keep your words coming from an empowered, solution-driven place. Let your team know that failure is simply something we learn from and move on. Come from the mindset that we will find a way, even if we come to a place where the deal or practice just doesn't make sense. And again, we learn from it and move on. Fourthly, stay curious. Come from a place of always striving to grow and learn to become a better leader. Always ask questions in order to grow. Ask questions in order to learn about the project and your team. We should always remember that there are things we can learn from everyone. So make sure you listening intently to all people is your practice. Fifthly, in your language, stay humble. Be ready and willing to always listen to others' opinions and ideas. Be first to voice your vulnerabilities. This will ensure your team that it's okay to make mistakes as long as we learn from it and that we're looking to grow in our understanding. Lastly, and here's what we touched on already. Understand that your intra language that is going on right now at this very moment inside your mind, where all communication comes from. So constantly work to improve yourself as a leader. Make it your personal belief that you are thirsty to constantly gain new insights so you can be the absolute best version of yourself. When you have a deeper and deeper belief in yourself, you have more to give away, and life becomes richer and more meaningful. And we should all understand that we can be leaders without any title. Doesn't matter. That's basically my language of leadership.
This is from you. You wrote that.
Yes, I wrote that.
Very nice. Okay. Well, let me just say this, and then I'll throw it back to you if you want to open up the questions for the group. But I will say this about Phil when sorry about that. when when we were at Iona together, the basketball team was not very good. Phil, let's not remember, but I never remember Phil. You know, when you're a member of the staff, or in my case, you know, sports information, and you're traveling around the country and you're losing games, whatever, and you tend to be kind of like, what the, you know, this is what a pain in the ass. So when is this team ever going to get it? I always remember Phil as being just a positive person. You know, he never, I don't ever remember him bad mouthing a coach or a player or a person of the administrative staff. He just would always have that mindset of, we're going to get it. We're going to get it right. We're going to get it going. And so I've always appreciated that about him. I don't think I've ever told him that.
I appreciate that.
But I also remember the day you ran the New York Marathon.
Yeah, that was well. Jerry made us have he allowed us to have a night practice because I was running.
Right.
And guess what? I made many mistakes that day.
Well, that's what I was thinking, because I remember you being there, kind of like, and Jerry's asking you to do something on the court, and you're like, you said to me, "He's like, what? I can't move." What's he? So, but
Okay.
anyway, so
I did. I will tell them this. I did the greatest impersonation of a penguin for 4 days because I couldn't walk up or downstairs, and I'm such a knucklehead because just ice your legs. Nah, let's go to practice. Let's go. Lactic acid just took over my body. It was,
Yeah.
it was horrible.
Well,
I saw a ball literally go right by me, and I couldn't even. That's okay. I won't digress.
No, that's hilarious. But with JB as our trainer, there's no doubt that you didn't. JB would just say, just spit on it and go. Let's get it. But anyway,
exactly.
Phil, I'll throw it back to you if you want to take questions now or whatever.
Well, I do want to say one thing. I have an acronym, and I believe that our energy is always under our control. And one of the things that I've shown every single one of my players that I've worked with is, Stephen Covey calls it his circle of influence, circle of control. And the number one thing that we always must focus on is just that. What can I control? What can I control? And I put it in there in your thought process. We should always be solution driven. And that I think that goes back to my mindset even back then, where what we focus on grows. If you think about the problems, they're going to grow.
Yeah.
But if you ask the questions, just like I went back all the way to when I got let go from Florida, how can I make this the greatest year of my life? That's an empowered question. And if you ask yourself, if you take inventory right now, after this half 45 minutes, if you take inventory of the questions that you ask yourself, understand that's in your control. What your thoughts are your control. And for instance, I have my acronym for HOPE. Okay, I've never seen anybody. I came up with this, and it's have only positive energy. Because guess what? Here's a golden nugget of life. Golden nugget of life. And I want you to kind of remember this and think about this as you go about your day tomorrow or tonight, is we teach others how to treat us. if you're kind, understanding, empathetic, and you help others, watch what happens to your world. If, it just changes. And for those judgmental and stuff, see how you respond to those people. And guess what? Those are in your circle. Because as Covey would say, I'll use my fingers, right? So here's this bigger circle. Here's this bigger circle. And that's our world. That's our concerns. That's the schedule. That's other people's, what they do. Inside here is what you have 100% control over. For those unsuccessful people and leaders that focus out here on things that they don't, that's where the pressure is. Their circle gets smaller. But if you only focus on what you can do, the amount of power you have in the world will grow. It's a very simple way. And I recommend that as one of the books foundational to that. And it's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's one of my foundational ones, and I recommend it highly. Another one that I would recommend highly, just for thoughts on entrepreneurship, on leadership, on mindset, would be Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. To me, those are two that book has spawned thousands of millionaires because of the lessons that it holds inside of it. So I'm open, please. I love questions because then I can direct my thoughts. So
I'm hoping we have some questions here, but I'll just say this. If you have not read, has anybody read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey? Listen, it's actually a good book for a course like this, but read it this summer if you get a chance. It's a great, he's right. That's right. And Think and Grow Rich. And also, Phil, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you're the one who gave me the Og Mandino book.
Oh, by the way, that was one of the first ones. And you know what, I'll tell you that quick little story is that it's me, right? So V was always, you got to be the best coach you can be, right? So you go, and I'm going to go to a bookstore and I'm going to get a book and I want to grow and I want to become the best. I'm a 23-year-old coach at University of Florida. So let's go. I go to the bookstore. What am I going to get? I don't know what books to get. I see this book called Peak Performance. Well, that sounds like the right book, right? Let me go get that. I take it home. It's like watching paint dry. I'm like, oh, I couldn't get through it. I didn't like it. It was like, oh, I put it in the shelf. I go and get Og Mandino's The Greatest Success in the World, which is not the salesman, the second one. And it got me fired up. Let's go. So then it referred to The Greatest Salesman, right? So I did that, right? I've given out, and I did The Greatest Salesman, and I lived with the 10 scrolls at the end. And I promise you, it changed my life, because what it did was it changed the hardware of my mind, the software of my mind. It literally, like, for instance, the scroll marked 1, the scroll marked 1 is about habits. Scroll marked 2 is, I will live this day with love in my heart, for love is my weapon and love is my shield. The scroll marked 3, I will live this day as if it is, I will persist until I succeed. For in the young bulls are tested for the final arena. A certain amount of bravery of each bull is tested with care according to the number of times attacks. You read it 90 times, it becomes the software of your mind. I will live this day as if it is my last. So I don't want to, but I've given out over 700. Yeah. I just,
you gave me the greatest.
I've had my wife buy 25 and I just send them out. Here, take it, right? Just take it.
All right. I think that's awesome. And you did give me The Greatest Salesman, and I've actually read it many times and recommended it. Okay, Natalie, I think you're up first. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for coming to speak to us, first of all. Kind of two things. First, there's a lot of times in your career where you weren't like the head coach or the primary leader of the team, but how did you take the position you had and still lead without stepping on toes of others? I think that's like a big thing that some kind of times, if you're like an assistant to the head, it's always hard to find that power dynamic.
Yeah, well, and Covey talks about this. One thing that is staying in your circle of influence, right? So part of it is learning who you're working with and the different leaders, and all the different leaders that I worked with were different. Okay. And that's part of it. You gotta ask yourself and examine, how can I be the best resource for that person, and take that, and in my own position. Now, guess what? Lead without title, as I mentioned earlier. So what does that mean? It means like, and I'm very fortunate that DT mentioned that about me, because it's been part of my hopefully who I am, that I can lead and try to give energy away when in any interaction that I have with the players and stuff. So, I have been a head coach, 5 times, I would say 6 times if you count summer leagues. And it's different because you are the final decision, but you learn, like with Mike D'Antonio, who I was with for 10 years. Mike and I learned how he thought. They wouldn't even need to see him. They would just come to me. Right. And they knew that I knew what his mindset was. And it's just being, observant, and trying to just be a star in your role, so to speak. People have said that often, but it's true. You try to become the best version of yourself in that role. And guess what happens? If you stay in that role and you do that, you get other opportunities, because they'll see that you're able to handle more, and then all of a sudden you elevated and all the above.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, give me another one.
Felicia.
It's not really a question,
Yeah.
but I don't know if you could share like a recommendation, like book list with Professor Taramio.
Oh, absolutely.
But
Absolutely. No,
like,
send
and
me
if
your
you could
list and
put
I'll
it
add
on,
to it, and I'll
that'd be
let me
awesome.
interject this too.
Yeah.
And don't listen to him on wait till the summer. Here's what you do. You make your car your classroom. Everywhere I've gone, I sometimes would listen and re-listen to the same tape over and over. And guess what? You're going through different things at that time. So you learn it differently. Abraham Lincoln said, if you read a book 6 times, you're going to know it better. And guess what? The Psychology of Winning by Dennis Waitley, I've listened to so many times long ago, but now it's second nature. It's just second nature. And that's what I think you want to get to, because then you can, give your wisdom to other people.
It's good advice. I don't know if I could stop listening to the 70s on 7, but anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Felicia, go ahead. You're muted. I think.
Hi.
There you go.
So I'm wondering, how do you succeed with a lot of job interviews for entry positions? Because I'm in that position right now. I'm looking for a job, but I think the interviews are the hardest part, not getting to the interview, if that makes sense.
So again, I think it's the energy that you're going to be coming with. If I'm going to be hiring someone, right, I want to see someone who, is willing to learn, has amazing energy, and will do anything, right? Will do anything. I mean, my first job, I left, true story. I go from, the University of Florida. I take a job in Honolulu at Chaminade University. I'm painting the athletic department because they had so little budget. It didn't matter. Again, whatever you take, the Zen approach, right? It's, how you do anything is how you do everything. So make sure you who you are is always prepared, highly energetic, willing to learn, and willing to do whatever it takes to. You can't tell me something I can't do, because I want to make sure I'm going to solve a problem for you. That's all jobs are, solving problems. So figure a way that you're going to solve a problem for them. And a famous story with George Clooney. George Clooney had a whole paradigm shift. He would go to interview and audition and audition and audition, but it wasn't until he did research and stuff on whatever that director or whatever, he went deeper, and he knew that he was there to solve a problem. And if you go in with that conviction and that mindset, they will feel that.
Okay, thank you.
Go. You're muted, bud.
Yeah.
There you go.
How are we doing, Phil? I just wanted to say, during the 45 minutes you were able to speak to us, I just wanted to say everything you said was very beneficial because most of the stuff that you told us came firsthand. I'm working with Jim Valvano, working at a big SEC school and being pretty much everywhere as a coach. There's two things I'd like to ask. One's a question and the second one's a statement. Firstly, like you were just saying, you were painting up, you were in the Chaminade down in Hawaii. Like, what made you stay consistent in your path, knowing that you wanted to be a coach instead of going to your buddy's company and working, with the financial stuff that he was working for? What made you keep that hope and the path, like being a coach is going to work out?
My path went from Florida to Chaminade to Iona. So it was after Iona, but quite honestly, I was open to anything. I just, we go down this path, and a great metaphor is if you're going down, you got to keep pushing down the hallway because you don't know what door is going to open up. You don't know what door is going to open up in front of you. And it's been actually amazing for me to have experienced that and have, kind of some life-changing moments with me. And it was, did I design it? No. But again, a belief in yourself, willing to do whatever it takes, that you're going to be so committed that you'll do whatever it takes to get that done, to always grow, and to understand that the more we grow ourselves, the more we have to give away. And, if I don't have a dozen oranges, I can't give a dozen oranges away. That's why I always look to improve, because the more you're able to give to other people, I'm telling you, if you solve problems for other people, your life will continually get better. It's where your focus is, on improvement and helping other people's lives. Things happen. By the way, I never charged millionaires, all those players. I never charged one penny. I was getting better, and I was developing strong relationships.
Interesting. And you obviously said you worked with the Miami Heat, so I must have to ask, did you work with LeBron?
So I've worked with LeBron a couple times. I was part of the staff, the USA Olympic staff, the first one where Coach K went. So Coach K brought us in. I went with Mike D'Antoni, and we were, we put the offense in for that first USA team. And the second time, now I was offensive advisor. I was working literally with Spo every night. Every night working, because I can tell you about Linsanity and the fateful year of 2012, where Linsanity happens and we turn the basketball and actually the world on fire. It was like CNN, and it was crazy. It was crazy for those 3 weeks. And just remember what Shakespeare said: beware the Ides of March, because on March 15th 2012, Mike just decides it's just not working for him. He doesn't think he's helping. So Mike D'Antoni resigns. And Glenn Grunwald, I'm getting ready to go to the Garden for another game, right? I'm getting ready. I'm there. And he goes, "Hey, Phil, Woody's going to take it." And Mike just resigned. And I'm like, crazy. The first person who called me, though, was my good friend, Coach Spoelstra. And, we started talking, and, kind of the rest is kind of history. So it was an amazing time, and I learned so much from working with the Heat. And I just hope that I, left some stuff there.
Very good.
So,
Any other questions for Phil? Yes. Allie, go ahead.
Hi, Phil. Thank you for coming in and talking to us.
sure.
Just a quick question going back to the books. When I was doing some research before the class, and your book, How Do You Make Them Thirsty, came up.
Yep.
And it did seem a little interesting, but I could only find like a little description about it. So since you're here right now, can you just go a little bit more in depth about what the book's about?
Of course. And I will share probably the best compliment that could have been paid to me from the book is I was working with some players when I was living in Atlanta, and high school players, the local high school coach. The coach had won a couple state championships, and he just became a good friend in Atlanta. So his dad actually was one of the players that I was working with. His dad was a CEO for a major, I won't use the name, major private equity firm, big time, big time. And, you know, we got on as I tend to, as my players have for the longest time, philosophical discussions. I tend to drill down. And so I sent him an early version of my emailed book. And he texts me 3 days later and says, you know, Phil, I can't stop reading your book. And 6 days later said, I've finished your book and I never, ever have to ask you what I'm thinking because you and I think exactly alike. Now, my book is not about me. It's about my journey. But what I use is I use the great coaches I've worked with. I use the players. It's about a book about development and different things that impact development. I also talk about culture and the different cultures. And we could have a whole, you know, discussion on how to build culture and how to do that. But if you were to boil the book down to its essence on leadership, okay, or coaching, whatever, I don't care if it's students, players, whatever it is, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's real, right? And that's why they're always watching and looking at you. So if you're not all the time showing and more so demonstrating that in words, actions, deeds, you know, your body language. And the other is everybody's different. Everybody learns differently. And it's your job as a leader, as a coach, as whatever, to learn how they learn so that you can reach them. Because education, the word education isn't throw in somebody. No, education is what you can draw from. That's what the word comes from, to draw from. And so it's, you know, it talks about the relationship, you know, that is so important. Then you have so now you have the relationship. So now you have to create, utilizing and understanding where that player, employee, student is coming from. You have to make a plan on how to execute where you want to go, right? You're an architect. You gotta understand what your vision is. You have to draw the plan, then you have to execute the plan. And as Covey will talk about, first things first. And you can't skip steps. So it's sequential, it's understanding, and it's, you know, and it's your spirit that goes through the whole thing. And then when you get to a certain level, it's your standards separate you from other leaders. There are no bad teams. There are no bad classes. There are bad leaders because what you permit, you promote. And it's, again, who you are speaks so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. So it's again, if you always work on who you are, if you're always trying to improve, if you're always trying to find that, how can I be better at this? And they feel that, then you're a leader. Then they know that you're utilizing who you are to try to make them better. And everybody wants to improve. That's when we feel progress, it's the greatest feeling in the world. It's like a dopamine hit. I talk about that in the book too, because when I ran the marathon, so in preparation, it was the cross-country coach at Iona that was telling me how to prepare. And I got this amazing dopamine hit because he said, every Sunday, run a little bit longer. And, you know, in preparation for the marathon. So every Sunday I would run longer, and then I would hop in my car and I would drive the path to see how far I went. The most I ran, and why I was so stiff, Dave, DT, is the most I ever ran was 17 miles. So, you know, I was in uncharted waters after mile number 17. And I will give you another side note to that marathon story. The most depressed, and I'm a positive guy, right? The most depressed I ever was is as you run, you're very cognitive of the miles. Okay, 25. When I hit the 26th mile, I forgot about the 0.2. So I'm like, oh no, I got another 0.2 to go. So anyway, but I hope that's answered your question. But it's again, to go back through, just to sum it up, it's, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And also, everyone's different, and treating everybody that way, and in building your team accordingly.
Here's what I
Thank
just
you.
took out of that. Yes, thank you. Well, if you have another question, please raise your hand to the group. But what I took out of that was knowing you and knowing, running the marathon, you're a Division I athlete, that you weren't arrogant enough that you didn't go to the cross country coach, who is a legend, by the way, McBurn,
Yeah,
Wisconsin. And
he got me in. I couldn't have run. I couldn't get one of those numbers. He had to get the number for me.
McBurn from Ireland, who was just a great guy, and their cross country teams are perennially on top. I mean, if Iona's basketball team was as good as that cross country team, we'd be talking about, like a juggernaut. But anyway, so that's it's pretty impressive. Any questions? Any more questions from the group? All right.
So I'm gonna let me end with a poem that I wrote. Okay. Now, I wrote this, and I end every one of my speeches to corporations and teams and stuff with this, because I think it kind of summarizes kind of my thought process. And I call it a new day. The new day is dawning, new opportunities at hand. To live as you believe, and for those beliefs, take a stand. So don't wallow in doubt or be crippled by fear. Take positive action and watch both disappear. Mistakes will be made and there'll be obstacles to bear. But you'll learn and you'll grow if you continue to care. Your faith can move mountains or help you achieve anything on it. If you apply the faith that you've carried since birth, persist, just persist through whatever transpires. For it's the quest towards our dreams that quenches our desires. A new day's dawning. Be excited, feel free to become the person you always wanted to be.
Very good, Coach. It's a great way to end it. I appreciate it, Phil. Thank you for your time, and
please connect if I can. Please connect me with everybody
I
here.
will share, if you want me to, I'll share your email with them and with the group, and certainly we thank you for your time and your sage wisdom.
Just trying to get better. Trying to get better.
Hey, we all are. No matter where we are, there's always room for improvement, right? My wife will tell you that. I got a lot of ways I can improve. So, all right.
Good luck with all you guys. Okay, and again, please if I can help, please reach out. Okay.
Thanks, Phil.
All right. Take care.
Stay well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye. Right in this. Not you.